The council declared it a myth. Then a human opened the ancient gate. The Galactic Council had been quite clear in their assessment. The ancient gates were nothing more than primitive folklore, stories concocted by lesser species to explain natural phenomena they couldn't understand. Ambassador Kelthera of the Vorthak Empire had been particularly dismissive during the last session, her crystalline voice cutting through the chamber like a blade. Humans, she had said, gesturing toward the lone representative from Earth, are notorious for their imaginative interpretations of archaeological findings. These gates they speak of are simply unusual mineral formations, nothing more. Dr. Sarah Chen had sat quietly through the ridicule, her weathered hands folded in her lap. At 63, she had excavated more alien ruins than most council members had seen in their lifetimes. The scars on her palms told stories of decades, spent brushing dirt from ancient stones, deciphering scripts that predated known civilization by millennia. But the council had spoken. Funding for the gate research was cut. The human expedition to Kepler 442b was officially terminated. Sarah returned to Earth with empty promises and closed doors, but she did not return empty-handed. Tucked away in her personal effects was a small crystalline key, no larger than her thumb, that she had discovered in the final days before the expedition's recall. The council's archaeologists had dismissed it as a decorative bauble, but Sarah had seen the way it resonated with the massive stone archway they'd uncovered. 3 months later, Sarah stood once again before the ancient gate on Kepler 442b. This time she was alone, having liquidated her life savings to charter a transport from a less than reputable shipping company. The gate towered 30 meters high, its surface covered in symbols that seemed to shift and change when viewed peripherally. The council's experts had spent weeks trying to decode the inscriptions, declaring them aesthetically pleasing but meaningless. They had been looking at them wrong. Sarah had realized it during her flight home, staring at the photos she'd taken. The symbols weren't meant to be read, they were meant to be felt. Each marking corresponded to a specific neural pattern, a frequency that resonated with conscious thought itself. It was a lock that could only be opened by understanding, not force. She pressed her palm against the cool stone, the crystal key clutched in her other hand. The gate hummed, a sound that vibrated through her bones and into her soul. The air around the archway began to shimmer, reality bending like heat waves rising from summer asphalt. Impossible, came a voice behind her. Sarah turned to see Ambassador Kelthera and a full council investigation team emerging from their stealth ship. They had followed her, expecting to document another human failure, another example of their species' tendency toward fantasy. Instead, they watched in stunned silence as the gate activated. The space within the archway shimmered and tore, revealing not the rocky landscape beyond, but a corridor of impossible architecture. The walls seemed to be constructed from solidified starlight, pulsing with gentle bioluminescence. The air that flowed through carried the scent of ozone and distant flowers. "The power readings," whispered Dr. Vex, the council's chief scientist, his 4 eyes wide with disbelief. "It's drawing energy from quantum foam itself. The technological sophistication required." Sarah stepped toward the threshold, but Kelthera's voice cracked like a whip. "Stop, human. You have no authorization to proceed. This discovery belongs to the Council under the Galactic Heritage Protection Act." Sarah paused at the threshold, feeling the warm breeze from the other side caress her face. She turned back to the assembled aliens, noting their expressions of greed, fear, and wonder in equal measure. "You called it a myth," Sarah said quietly. "You cut our funding. You laughed at our primitive folklore and imaginative interpretations. Now you want to claim our discovery?" The gate pulsed brighter, responding to her emotional state. Through the opening, structures became visible in the distance. Spires that defied gravity. Cities that existed in mathematical harmony with the cosmos itself. "The builders of this gate," Sarah continued, "they weren't just advanced, they were waiting. Waiting for someone who could understand that knowledge isn't about force or authority. It's about wonder, about being willing to see beyond what you think you know." She held up the crystal key, which now glowed with the same light as the gate. "This isn't just a key to a door, it's a test. a test of whether a species is ready to join something greater. Kelthera stepped forward, her governmental robes rustling. The council demands— The council failed the test, Sarah interrupted. You saw mystery and called it myth. You saw wonder and called it primitive. The builders knew that only a species still capable of dreaming would be worthy of what lies beyond. With that, she stepped through the gate. The sensation was indescribable, like being dissolved into pure thought and then reconstructed from starlight and possibility. On the other side, she found herself standing in a vast chamber where representatives of a dozen unknown species waited with expressions of welcome. Another dreamer arrives, said a being of living crystal, its voice like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. Your species shows promise, young Sarah Chen, the first to open a gate in 3,000 cycles. Behind her, through the diminishing portal, she could hear Kelthera's outraged shouts and the frantic beeping of council scanning equipment. But the gate was closing, responding to Sarah's understanding that some thresholds, once crossed, cannot be uncrossed. The council had declared it a myth. They had been wrong about more than just the gate's existence. They had failed to understand the most important truth of all. The universe belongs not to those who claim dominion over it, but to those who approach it with the wisdom to remain amazed. Sarah smiled and walked deeper into the impossible city, ready to learn what dreams could build when given form among the stars.